Yes, perfect. Thank you.
All right, so let's get to it. Wonderware Enterprise Integrator. As an agenda, I'll go through a little bit more about myself and the company that I work for, Callisto. Go through what is WEI and why does anybody really need WEI. We'll then talk about the current state of Wonderware Enterprise Integrator as it sits on the Wonderware product website. When to use WEI. Go through some value-based customer examples where customers saw value in the WEI product. And then as you're talking and thinking through some of the ways that WEI can work for your business, we'll go through some of the planning and next steps on integrating with WEI. So again, my name is Abel. I work for a company called Callisto Integration. I've been in the business for about 5 years. The first 3 years were actually as a programmer on the front lines of implementations with customers. One of my first projects was actually an integration of WEI, but now I've moved into more operational consulting and account management in more of a sales role at the company. The company that I work for, Callisto Integration, we work in many different verticals, whether that's food and beverage or consumer packaged goods, aerospace, specialty chemicals. We're a manufacturing consulting and systems integrator with over 26 years of experience. We're also the only indoor systems integrator that's also an indoor software partner. And part of that certification is because we, as Mike mentioned, developed WEI. We have global reach, about 5 offices, 2 of which are headquartered in Europe, 3 in North America and Canada. And we really are broken down into 4 business segments. We offer services in consulting, in mechanical engineering. We have a controls team that programs PLCs, cabinet drawings, and they've implemented over 2,500 control systems worldwide. But the one that I really want to focus on is MES. And really, if you get down to what MES is at a very basic level, MES exists to take a manufacturing process and take what might have been an occasional bad day and start generating consistently good manufacturing days. So what does that mean? What does that mean in the context of WEI? Well, I'll share with you an example of a customer that I recently visited. This customer, as part of their business process, would gain information. So inventory manifests might come into their receiving area. So as they're receiving raw materials as part of their manufacturing process, you talk to that area and they say, well, I go about my business, I generate a report, and then I give that report to Sally in the planning or accounting area, and I give it to Joe on the plant floor. Joe and Sally, they take that inventory information and they take that report, type in that data into their system so that they can make use of that information. Now you can see that once Sally and Joe are done, they might print another report and send it to another system, maybe order fulfillment or distribution. So you can see the inefficiencies there. Having to duplicate that data across multiple systems and hand key that data in, it's cumbersome. Even if you were to take that one step further and say that now we've moved on to Excel spreadsheets where data is now in digital form, there's still a lot of dross and a lot of manual intervention in order to get the data to the right place at the right time. Maybe you need to manipulate that data. And so that's a need that it can be serviced by WEI. So you look here and you see WEI in the center, and it's taking information from different data sources, whether that's a formatted file, a planning tool such as SAP, might be the maintenance management system within SAP or any other tool, a scheduling system, a laboratory quality system, information from within Wonderware. But think of it in broader sense. I had a customer that they had a piece of quality equipment that would take and analyze their pieces in their manufacturing process, but it was an old piece of equipment, and it would only spit out a CSV file. We can take that CSV file, pull it into the central system, and as you'll notice in the central system, we have a message history. It's not just, hey, I'll send it over or I'll toss it over the fence to this other business system. There's full audit and traceability of how that information gets transmitted throughout the different systems. So in summary, WEI acts to connect systems that are not always easy to connect through information. Connect information from the business to the shop floor and vice versa in a bidirectional manner. You'll notice the arrows go up and down. And it does this on a platform that facilitates a consistent and easy-to-use mechanism for that information transfer. So without WI, what's often missed? Well, sometimes you might have a homegrown solution, or you might have a developer on site that's provided some of this functionality. But a lot of times it's that throw over the fence type of mechanism where you send the information off and 99% of the time it works, but you really don't know for sure. There's no information history. If something errored out, well, just send it again and hope that it made it this time. A lot of times there's no ability to manipulate the data. So in the case of that CSV file that's coming off the shop floor, nobody's going in there, or if they are, they're going in manually to change the data and manipulate it in a way that makes sense to the receiving system. People have made entire careers, and I'm not knocking on those people because I use Excel quite a bit, but people have become experts in transposing data and making sure that it makes sense to the recipient of that data. So why WEI? Rather than throwing it over the fence or firing and forget, there's a store and forward mechanism. Well, why would you need that? Well, if you're in any sort of digital system, you'll know that your network doesn't always work. Network outages happen. People start watching the Super Bowl and network just gets congested, or there's a YouTube video that's circulating across the office. And so when that network is down, those messages that were meant to be sent are not just thrown away. We know what those messages are. They're stored so that when that network comes back up, we're able to forward those messages onto their rightful destination. For the purposes of auditing, there's also information history, as opposed to no knowledge of having messages sent or received. If something happens, you can tell what happened to what message at what time. There's that centrally managed translation of information. You can see the data that was coming in, how it was managed before it's finally sent off. Whether you're looking at a system that came from vendor A, vendor B, vendor C, you can see how all this data comes together and it gets sent out through a centrally managed system, and that allows for business continuity. So in summary, WI facilitates the information between systems. Maintain message history so that you can recover in the event of a disaster. When you're back up and recovered from that disaster, you haven't lost any data. And this all happens automatically. So I've said a lot. Proof is in the pudding. Let's go through a demonstration. But before we do that, let's talk about what's going to happen. So we have an order that needs to make it to the shop floor from a planning tool. We're going to use a very simple XML file drop. We're going to basically drag and drop a file into a folder that WI is looking at. That file is going to get processed so that that person on the shop floor can see exactly what orders need to be fulfilled. He'll work against that order to consume raw materials, and we're going to send that raw material consumption back up to the planning tool so that they, to Mike's point, can compare theoretical, what was supposed to happen, to what actually happened. Okay. So as you can see, we've opened Chrome. WEI is available in any HTML5 capable browser. There's no need to install any additional software on the client machine. The website simply pulls data from the server. In the right-hand corner, you'll see that I'm logged in. This facilitates Active Directory or any other security mechanisms so that users are only presented with the information that they need. The message log shows all the contextual pieces of the messages in WEI to show transactions going in and out. The information is, again, not just thrown over the fence. The messages have context such as location, date, time, even a status. And as we can see here, all of the messages are green because they were processed successfully. We're going to simulate a message coming in from an ERP, let's say SAP, that gives our MES the information it needs to create a work order. It allows you to filter the list on the top there based on context like time, category, a summary of the message, even the message contents. So here we see our shop floor systems, again, browser-based because the industry is moving in that direction. A list of work orders is shown here, and we can see the work orders increment, and our latest work order is work order 1005. We're going to use a template to create the new work order details. And so you'll remember we had 1005. We're going to create work order 1006 through 1010. Now, here we're simulating a simple file transfer, but other methods of communication such as database queries, API calls, web services, even standard ERP interfaces like MII or BOPIs are available. So here we can see we've dropped the message. We go back into our shop floor tool, our MES, and we can see after we refresh our work orders that were just dropped in WEI. The WEI location took the data and put the appropriate pieces into the MES system, and so now we'll go back to the MES system to post-production and consumption records. Now we're obviously going through a manual process here, which sometimes happens, but it can also happen in real time automatically. So we're going in here, we're starting the mixing operation for what in this example is an ice cream plant. We go to the milk mix as an output and we say that we want to consume some heavy cream against that output. The goal here is to send the transaction back automatically. So we'll go in, highlight our heavy cream, look at the consumption. We're requiring 900 gallons, so we'll just, for the sake of posterity, put in 900 gallons, consume it. You can see it's shown in the shop floor system. We go back to our WEI instance. After a refresh, we can see the consumption record going back up. So whether it's in real time or near real time, we're able to transmit that data back and forth from the planning tool to the shop floor. You also notice it's if you have a Surface tablet or you work in Windows 8, it's got a very modern look and feel, pretty easy to work with, and as a recap, we took the MES order, dropped it through an XML file transfer from the planning tool. It generated a new order, and we posted a consumption. So in essence, the MES activity has gone full circle as part of the production cycle. So we use work orders and consumption records, but really you're not limited. You're really only limited by your imagination. Even for information that's sent that's very similar, so say that we're sending production orders or even material master information. Material master refers to the recipe or the bill of materials that go into producing a finished good item. But sometimes, you know, you might have co-products or byproducts. So what might be a simple process for one application, say you're making jet fuel, and there are no byproducts to jet fuel. That varies from making cheese, where, say, you're, as part of your process, creating that cheese, but you also have whey protein that comes out as a byproduct. The message structure is as individual as your process, because your process is what makes you successful. Other types of messages are going to be performance, quality, material, and labor transactions. The execution of those work orders, so when a work order starts and stops, so that you know exactly what's happening on your shop floor. There's no guesswork at the planning stages. And if you're using Wonderware, WEI makes use of a middleware straight to the MES database for reading and writing transactions. So if you go to the Schneider Electric software support website, you'll notice you have two areas. You can download the software itself if you've paid for it with licensing, and you'll see here that it lists 2012. I'm very excited to let you know that Wonderware 2014 is going to be available within the week. Mike talked about that migration path. And so one thing that I'm really excited to tell you is that if you're going from Wonderware Enterprise Integrator 2008, 2012, 2014 R2, it's really a one-click update process. You go in, no data is lost, you hit a button, and you're onto the latest platform. So as Microsoft stops support for Windows Server 2003, soon, probably within the next few years, 2008, you're able to leverage 2012, SQL Server 2012 R2, as well as all of the Wonderware stack, like MES Software 2014, System Platform 2014 R2. It leverages all the modern software, such as HTML5, .NET Framework 4.5. And what's new in this newest iteration is there's actually two versions. trying to save you guys money if you guys don't need the very robust stuff. But the standard edition is a migration path for customers that use legacy supply chain connector within MES. The professional edition basically allows you to do just about anything you want to do in terms of integrating information from one system to another. It also includes example plugins and documentation. So when should you use WEI? In ERP integrations with SAP, here are some of the things that we've found out through working through and bumping our heads sometimes, but the learning lessons that we've come up across. You want to start with an integrator that understands system communications, an integrator or someone in-house that understands how your systems need to communicate, and use that person from the beginning of the project. Start talking through what information really needs to be sent down, and also what intervals. We found that with SAP, it can be a pretty arduous and sometimes expensive task of having multiple versions of the data within SAP. So sometimes it makes sense to have that versioned data within the shop floor system or another business system. What are some of the issues? Well, particularly if you're not using WEI, there's a danger that you get information sent to SAP and SAP just rejects it. There's no debugging, there's no real error that you see. It's just, when you look for the data, it's just not there. With WEI, you have the ability to have error handling in history. So we send something out to SAP or any other business system. If there's a model that uses handshaking, we can tell what happened. If it erred, there are automatic mechanisms to retry and to manipulate the data so that we see things like, well, SAP was expecting a number and you sent it an alphanumeric. There are ways to handle that. No data is ever lost. So this slide allows IT departments to rest a little bit easier because you're not forced to use an XML file transfer. You can use APIs, you can use web services, database queries. If you're a defensive aerospace company and you handle DoD contracts, there might be a security measure within IT that precludes you from using file transfers where the file can be intercepted. Web services, as an industry standard, also allow you to do things like handshaking so that you don't just send it, you know exactly that it was received and that the contents were correct. You're not also, you'll notice that we talked about the look and feel of Microsoft, and a lot of our plugins are written in .NET, but you can use C++, you can use Java. You have a lot of options there. The documentation consists of a lot of samples, so even if you're just opening Visual Studio or a development environment for the first time, it walks you through some of those commonly used interfaces. But then, as Mike mentioned, there's extensive training. If you need a classroom or a one-on-one type of training environment, Wonderware NorCal and Callisto, we work really well together to provide that level of training that's appropriate for you. So let's go through some examples of customers that directly benefited from WEI. The first is a dairy company, and they went through a lot of the needs that were covered in the demonstration. Orders coming from a planning tool like SAP that sent material information down and up, and acknowledgments of productions and consumptions. The real buyback here, though, is that they used one implementation for all their global sites. 9 sites where there was, hand to our heart, some work done on the first site, but then it was a rubber stamp implementation to take what was done in that first site and copy and paste, essentially, that implementation across their other sites. Low total cost of ownership. The next example is an ice cream factory, where they had the same needs for orders and materials to come from their planning tool, but they also needed specification data. And when I say specification data, I mean they wanted to be able to tell what tests needed to be taken on the shop floor to ensure that they were delivering quality product. So if they needed to take a pH test, the operators knew on the shop floor. They also knew what the target of that pH test was, what the upper and lower limits, what the sample frequency was. And the interesting thing about this customer is they didn't use SAP. They didn't use Oracle. They didn't use any of the off-the-shop floor boxed solutions. They had their own. They had a homegrown solution that they dearly loved, but because of WEI's flexibility, we were able to use WEI to still marry that data across the 2 different systems. a food company. Again, we're looking at orders, material master, and quality. But in this case, they needed inventory records too. And it wasn't just we're sending information from one system to another. It was a one-to-many relationship. So while information came in to receiving on raw materials being brought into the plant in general as part of the supply chain, that data needed to go to the shop floor, to the accounting tool, so that they knew if they needed to order more because of a lack of inventory. And so there's this one-to-many relationship. And again, just like our previous customer, the same 35 messages, so a big footprint, was used around the world at multiple sites. The fourth implementation is one that's pretty interesting. It was with a candy company, and they had a need to gain greater visibility to things breaking on the shop floor. And they had SAP preventative maintenance. And when they approached SAP to say, well, how do we allow people on the shop floor to in real time send that something broke or is about to break on the shop floor straight up to SAP? Well, they were quoted something in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, as anybody that's worked with SAP can relate to. And so they came to us and they said, well, what are our alternatives? And in this case, we had developed some in-touch screens for them, some supervisor control screens, where operators were already used to pressing a certain button when something was breaking down. So what we did is we changed the plumbing behind that button a little bit so that when they would hit that button, it not only sent a message to the people on the shop floor, it also sent a preventative maintenance message up to SAP's preventative maintenance module. Price in the order of like tens of thousands as opposed to hundreds of thousands across all of their plant floors with little to no change in the operator experience. There was no need for training. So as I talk through the examples, you might have been thinking, okay, well, that could actually work for my implementation. So in simple terms, use WEI when unrelated systems need to communicate, whether that's MES, Oracle, a laboratory system, system platform. What system platform really did for integrating to devices on the shop floor, control systems, WEI does for the transmission of information. We don't care whether you're using SAP, Oracle, a CSV file. We'll find a way to communicate with it. So what's required? Existing systems usually have a predetermined format that needs to be used. Knowing that format helps a lot. Knowing what data is required by all systems, so you kind of look at it from a very high level before getting into the details. Determine your endpoints and what method you're using for communication. If you need to work with your IT, get them involved. Let them know what their options are. Also, figure out what data is common across your multiple systems. Along with that, the timing and the triggering. Sometimes you have different needs for different systems. While your shop floor system might be able to handle transactions on the fraction of a second across multiple assets, so you're looking at thousands of records on the second, sometimes your planning tool can't handle that. If there's a consolidation of data or an aggregation that needs to happen, or if you don't need data in real time, what if you just need a report at the end of the day? And posting those transactions on the half second create network issues. You have the options there. The flexibility is really what is key there. There are built-in configurable mechanisms for setting up those frequencies, that consolidation of data, retry mechanisms, et cetera. So sometimes you'll have something that's time-based, sometimes something that's event-based. It supports both. So with that, I hope that kind of got your thought process kind of going with WEI and its capabilities. I'll let you guys open it up for questions.
Great. Thanks, Abel. We do have a few questions that have come in. The first one is, are there any plug-and-play interfaces in WEI?
Well, so There are. If you're familiar with Supply Chain Connector, there are a lot of examples that go through basic functionality within Wonderware. So what we know we have built plugins for. The trouble with a lot of integration projects is I've never run into an SAP integration, for example, where one interface was exactly the same as another. To illustrate that, I was recently working with a customer that over 70% of their SAP implementation were Z tables, which were essentially custom tables. So what WEI does for you is it provides a platform for consistent communication and the mechanisms to make that efficient. We kind of leave it up to you guys to figure out, well, what does that interface really look like, and give you the tools in your toolbox to do that efficiently.
Okay, thank you. The next one, is WEI covered by Wonderware software support? I don't know if you or Mike want to take that one.
I can take that one. It's definitely covered. Wonderware will help in the support mechanisms. You call the same number that you would for any other Wonderware product. I don't know if, Mike, you wanted to add anything to that.
Yeah, the Wonderware Enterprise Integrator is sold through the Wonderware distribution channel. So the same folks that you talk to for the rest of your Wonderware software, you would call to talk to about Enterprise Integrator. So that includes both sales as well as project support and technical support.
Thank you. How long does an implementation usually take?
It really depends on the complexity of the implementation. It can take as little as, a couple weeks to, depending on the number of sites and the number of messaging locations. Really, it just depends on the complexity.
Thank you. One other one. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Is it right to say WEI is necessary for MES implementation?
Is it necessary? Not explicitly. Just like WEI doesn't need MES to exist, MES doesn't need WEI to exist. It definitely helps fill needs, but there's no need to have one or the other. They're not mutually inclusive.
Yeah, I think an example of that is, a plant wants to see OEE dashboards. They want to see overall equipment effectiveness. They want to understand, where their downtime is occurring and the reasons for that downtime. You wouldn't need Wonderware Enterprise Integrator per se to drive that up to, your ERP system. That's going to be more of just a real-time dashboard, and you may have some reports against that maybe use SQL Server reporting services, for example, but don't require your ERP system really to get involved to monitor something like OEE. So just as an example, I mean, it really boils down to what information is needed at the in the business system. Not just at the business layer, because you could access MES information, through some of the Wonderware web portal, MES web portal applications to view information and to view reports. But as soon as you need to actually transfer that data into a business system, that's when it's really, valuable to look at the Enterprise Integrator.
Yeah, in Mike's example, as soon as you need to take that OEE information that was on a TV screen on your shop floor and hire an intern to look at that TV screen and enter that data into another system, that's when you're really looking at leveraging something like WEI. If it's repeatable, data exchange between systems, that's a good fit.
All right, thank you. One question is, what is the licensing price structure? Mike, can you?
Yeah, sure. I can answer that. Yeah, so Enterprise Integrator, as I mentioned, is sold through the Wonderware distribution. So it's pretty much just a license as far as how you purchase Enterprise Integrator, and it would be for the Enterprise Integrator server. So that includes development capability as well as the execution of the Enterprise Integrator services to do all the transactions. So typically you're only going to need one Wonderware Enterprise Integrator license per plant. So if you've got multiple plants, then you'd buy a license per plant, and that's the most typical implementation we see. Able that just add anything to that?
Yeah, no, if you're familiar with the historian, it follows a very similar model where, we have a lot of customers where they might have SAP at a corporate level, and so to send order messages, for example, down to the different plants, they'll have a WI instance at corporate. They also have one at the shop floor, not the shop floor, but the individual plants, so that you can see the granular pieces, but really there's an aggregation that can happen all the way up, so you have flexibility there. It really depends on the need. But, yeah.
All right. The next one, how do you protect the plant floor control system when information can be exchanged in two directions, unlike historian with push technology?
Good question. Abel, has that come up at all as far as using a DMZ, for example, to provide a buffer between the plant floor and the ERP system? Have you done any implementations like that where you're using Enterprise Integrator and like a DMZ?
Yeah. So they're typical network architectures do have a DMZ between the control systems and even the shop floor system. If that doesn't exist and you only have one between the business system and the shop floor system, the big piece there is you're very much handling the message transaction. So while you can interface WEI to machinery on the shop floor, you're very much in control of that message. And I shouldn't say never because I have a limited subset of what we've done, but there's no scenario in which I can think of that data would be pushed out to a PLC where you're not controlling that message. There's validation, just like you would have interlocks on a PLC there's validation and control mechanisms on WEI as well. And you have full visibility to anything that did happen.
All right.
Okay, so the main point being you have control of those messages, so you can determine how they're sent. And so that would, and with the use of a DMZ and the appropriate routing, that you could use some IT best practices to limit what information can and can't be sent between the networks.
Yeah, definitely, and there's planning that goes into it, so there shouldn't be any surprises as to where the information is being sent or what's being sent. It follows, it's not really ad hoc information sending, there's structure to it. So yeah, what you stated is correct.
Okay. Can WEI 2012 only work with System Platform 2012 or later, or are they independent?
They're backwards compatible.
All right. And we have System Platform 2012 and InTouch 2012, but an older version of WEI. Can we upgrade smoothly? Yes,
and as long as there's some things you need to consider. So plugins, kind of live a life of their own. If there's a technology upgrade, so say that the middleware changes and now you're, the middleware that you were hitting in MES 3.5 is suddenly no longer available. There are migration paths that you need to take, but in general, yeah, it's pretty one-click in terms of WEI itself. The plugins themselves sometimes require a little bit of attention.
Okay. Let me just check. I think that wraps up our questions, and I think it does. So thank you, Mike, and thank you, Abel. That was a great webinar. This webinar was recorded, so if anyone would like to review a portion of the webinar or share it with colleagues, it'll be available on our website and also our YouTube channel a little bit later this afternoon. So thank you, everyone, for attending, and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.